Hey guys, welcome to the PaintersRx interior estimate tutorial. So we're going to cover the form today and hopefully give you guys a full understanding of exactly how this form works and how to save a ton of time with these new systems that we have in place. So we'll dive right in. There's two tabs on the new form for the interior estimate. There's the price estimate tab and the service agreement tab, much like the new exterior form. From the inputs that you're going to be inputting into the interior estimate, price estimate tab, this first page is what I'm talking about. From the inputs that you put in here, you're going to auto-generate a service agreement. And we'll show you a little bit more how that works further on in this tutorial. So starting at the top of the first page, if you guys want to insert a company header, just double click, get rid of this, put your company name in here. Or you can insert your logo, whatever works for you guys. But we'll get rid of that for now. This section up here, you're going to actually fill in after you print this form out manually. So you'll put in customer name, phone number, email address, physical address that is, payment schedule, and proposal number. So the next thing that we're going to look at is starting to take measurements when you're walking around with your customer. So you'll notice that all the rooms are listed in column A for the interior painting. Column B will be the length of the floor. Column C will be the width of the floor. All the yellow cells, for example, in columns D and H, are auto-generating and they're actually locked, so you can't even enter in anything in there if you wanted to. That's the kind of message that you'll get. So in column E, if you're going to be painting trim in the room, you'll what this means in parentheses here, it says Y equals 1, N equals 0. So if you're going to be painting trim, you're either going to enter in a 1 for yes or 0 for no. Now door sides, you're going to count every door side that you're actually going to be painting, so the inside or outside of the doors or whatever sides that you've agreed upon with the customer. Like a lot of times the inside of closet doors won't get painted. That's why we actually have door sides listed here. The number that you'll put in here is how many door sides in the foyer that you're actually going to be painting, because this row here is the foyer and this is the door side. So where they meet is right there, and where they meet, let's just say there's 5 door sides. Now the next section, you guys may be familiar with this, you may not. You're going to enter in colors. So when you hover over this, you'll see some instructions, but I could just verbally explain that for you now. So let's do some, let's just actually fill this row out and give you guys an example. So let's say the length of the floor in the foyer is 20, the width is also 20. That gives us our square footage. We're going to be painting the trim in there. Oop, 1 is what we enter for yes, so 1. And there's 5 door sides, like we mentioned. Now colors, you get to this column and you're like, well, what does that mean? 1 to 3 colors. What that actually means is colors or finishes. So let's say that we're going to be painting, well, we're definitely painting trim, and we're definitely painting at least one surface, either walls or ceilings. And then we're going to be painting door sides also. So right away what we're looking at is that there's going to be 3 colors here, definitely. 3 colors or finishes, because the trim and door sides are probably both going to be semi-gloss, so there actually may be only 2 colors or finishes. So let's just say that this square footage we took because we're going to be painting the walls. So let's say that the trim and doors are both white semi-gloss, and we know that, and then the walls are going to be like an eggshell finish, and maybe it's also in white, but it's a different finish. So we're going to actually enter in 2 colors, but when you see me hover over this tab here, for us, when we have 1 color, we charge $2 per square foot. When we have 2 colors, we charge $2.25 per square foot. When we have 3 or more, we charge $2.75 per square foot. So for us, we're going to say that this is 2 colors, so we're actually going to enter in $2.25. And now that's going to give us our partial cost for the foyer with those dimensions and that scope of work being done. So basically, that's how it works. There's through the whole top section of this form, all the way down to bedroom 4 right here. That's how you're going to input all that information. And if you're not going to be doing that area, you just leave it blank. Excuse me. Like if you're not going to be doing the formal dining or something like that, just leave it blank. Now you'll see there's another red triangle in the corner of foyer and the corner of the kitchen. When you hover over both of these, what it's telling you is that in the foyer, this formula actually differs from all the other rooms. because it accounts for the typical ceiling height being a lot more, almost double in foyers. So what that means is if you were going to do the formal dining and you enter in all the same information, one for trim, 5 door sides, let's say it's 2 colors again, so we'll enter in 225. It's going to give you actually half of that price because we're accounting for 8-foot ceilings in all the other areas, and actually in foyers 16 to 20-foot ceilings. So that's why that price is different. Again, if you did that in the formal living room, in the downstairs hallway, any of those areas, you're going to get all the same output over there. So I'll just show you what I mean. And 225, you'll see that that's also listing as 900. The same thing would happen with the downstairs hallway. Now, when you get to the kitchen, this formula actually differs a little bit also because there's a minimal wall space in kitchens due to cabinetry. So if we were going to have a really large kitchen, we'll just enter in the same dimensions to show you guys what I mean. 1 for the trim, yes, there's 5 door sides, and then there's 2 colors that we're doing in there. It's actually going to give you a cheaper price than the typical room. So it's very important to input all the information for the kitchen into the kitchen row 10, and very important to put all the information for the foyer into the foyer row 6. So all the rest are going to basically calculate the same formula for you guys. Now, what's really, really neat about these new forms is that in the service agreement, if you guys aren't familiar with our service agreements, they're broken down by task and area. What that means is that we list a task, and then we're actually like repair nail pops with screws is our first task here. And then we're actually going to talk about the area that we're going to do that stuff in. So for the written service agreement, anything that's auto-generated, and what I mean by that is anything that is going to automatically generate in the written service agreement is highlighted in like a real light green. So you'll see that skim coating, caulking, painting door sides, and painting trim, all that stuff is actually auto-populated for you. You don't have to fill it out at all. When you print it out and it's ready. Repairing nail pops with screws, you're going to circle yes, are we doing that, or no, we're not, and then where you're going to be doing it. Removing wallpaper, circle for yes or no, and where you're going to be doing it. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Okay, so that's where we left off with removing wallpaper. The door sides, all this stuff, you'll notice that the foyer, dining room, living room, and the kitchen are all areas, if we flip back to the price estimate, foyer, dining, living, and kitchen are all the areas that are actually filled in. So let's show you an example of that. So if we get rid of trim in the foyer, and we're not doing that anymore, they didn't want it done, so we'll look for paint trim, and you'll notice that the foyer disappeared. So if we go back and we put that back in, you'll notice that it'll reappear. So painting trim in the foyer is back. So for door sides and painting trim, all those are going to auto-populate for you in the areas that we're going to be painting. Skim coating, again, that's going to appear for you guys if we have any actual skim coating to do, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. That's further down in the form. Caulking with siliconized caulking as needed on the trim. So the only way that that's not going to be there is if we're not doing any trim. So let's just say that we're not doing any trim on this job at all. And now you'll notice that it doesn't apply, NA. So if we back up a little bit and we put all those ones back in there with the trim, you'll notice that now caulk with siliconized caulking as needed on the trim is back. Okay, so when it comes to painting walls, we're just going to have to manually circle all of these areas that apply. All the areas are already listed there for you, so you're just going to circle the rooms that you discussed with your customer that you're going to be painting, and the same thing for the ceilings. And then also the same thing for not painting. If there's any areas that you're not painting anything in at all, I recommend that you guys just manually circle those areas. Like, for example, if you guys weren't going to paint the basement, I would just circle that after you print this out. Okay, down towards the bottom of the written service agreement, we'll come back to this and discuss why this is here, but there's a big section for you to take some additional notes about finishes, scheduling needs, other areas that might be getting painted, and also other notes that are important. These are kind of like guidelines, these questions, to remind you about things that you might have missed at your estimate. So if we flip back to price estimate, so we've got all these things filled in up here. Let's just say that's the full job. Now, if we come down to the bottom of the first part of the pricing, you'll see the partial labor cost. But now there's an additional section right here in these rows. I'll show you right there. This whole section here that lists additional man hours and miscellaneous tasks, because there's a lot of other things that could possibly go on in like a paint job, especially interior. It could get really crazy. So the first white cell that you're going to be filling in, again, there's only 5 cells that you have to worry about filling in here. Right here, 1, 2, and then these 3. So if we're going to be painting in any closets, you just enter in how many closets. So let's say we're painting 5 closets, it's going to give you the price there. If there's any heavy furniture that you're going to have to move or disassemble, you're going to have to enter in how many items there. So if there's 2 bureaus that are really heavy that you're going to have to move, you're going to enter in 2 here. If we have to skim coat any full walls after like removing wallpaper or something like that, you're going to enter in the actual walls here. What this formula assumes is like a 10-foot long, 8-foot high wall. So if it's in a foyer, you might want to enter in 2 walls if it's the size of, if it's just 1 wall. Or you may even want to enter in 4. The dimensions that you want to remember there are that the wall, this is assuming like 10 by 8 square footage of a wall, like an average size bedroom wall. So let's just say it is in the foyer, so you enter in 4 because you're going to skim coat a giant wall. Next thing is scaffold and ladder setup. So let's say in order to actually skim coat that wall, you're going to have to set up a ladder, and it's really not easy to do to like remain safe and actually set up all that stuff inside of somebody's like really nice home. So let's just say that you'll enter in a 1 for scaffold setup. And now priming dark walls or sheetrock. So if you have a really dark color and you have to prime it before you lighten it up, you're going to enter in that information here. The same formula applies here. In parentheses, it says enter number of walls. That's assuming 10 by 8 again. So let's just say that in the foyer you had to remove wallpaper. And when you were removing that wallpaper, you're going to have to skim coat and then also prime that whole area after you skim coat with like oil primer or something like that. Now, since you entered in skim coating, there were 4 10 by 8 areas there. You're going to do the same thing here, and that's going to give you all of your additional man hours and miscellaneous tasks. So if you have any carpentry repairs or if you have any wallpaper removal, you're going to want to manually figure out how much you want to charge for that. Personally, for us in our company with all of our projects, we really don't remove wallpaper too much. It's just we don't make money doing it. It's a big unknown for us. So we don't really take that kind of stuff on. If you do that and you decide to take that on, option 2, row 37 right here, you're going to just, after you print this stuff out, these 2 pages, you're going to manually write in, remove wallpaper, and then write your price in here for option 2. Full painting is going to auto-generate, but we're not quite done filling everything out. This is basically only for labor so far to take care of all that work in the foyer and the 3 other areas up here. So when we move down to the material section, it looks very similar to our exterior form, but if you guys haven't seen that video, you'll need to know it again, so we'll go over it. In row A, let me just move this so we could just see materials if possible. So in row or column A here, the material, it's going to list it out by the actual area that it's going on to. So the walls, trim, doors, ceilings, and primer. So all the gallons are auto-generated for you. The colors aren't necessarily that important. Finishes aren't that important. Usually we'll fill the color numbers and finishes out in this section like I was mentioning before, the service agreement. Now if we flip back, the gallons are auto-generated, but you are going to need to put in your price per gallon. So when you put in your price per gallon, let's just say that you get charged $35 for wall paint. For trim and doors, it's a little bit more because it's semi-gloss, $45 a gallon. For ceilings, now you'll notice there's another little red triangle there. So it's very important to fill this information in. If ceilings are not being painted, enter in 0 into this cell. And if they are being painted, then you enter in your price per gallon for ceiling paint. So let's just say that they're not being painted. Because a lot of, and that could be true on this project, because a lot of these, the color section up here in row G, are only accounting for 2 colors or finishes because trim and doors, it's white semi-gloss. And then let's just say we're painting walls in all these areas, nothing with ceilings. So we'll just enter in 0 down here because we're not going to be painting ceilings. Now, primer is auto-generated because that comes from the miscellaneous tasks. They know that, the form knows that you're going to be priming because you actually told it that you're going to be priming right here, priming dark walls and sheetrock. So you're going to put in how much you pay for whatever type of primer you're going to be using. Oil primer, let's just say you pay $24 a gallon. Now you have your full price for labor and materials under full painting. And if you're doing that wallpaper removal, you have to come up with your price and put it in. So all that stuff auto-generates stuff in the service agreement. It's listing all the areas that you're going to be painting door sides, painting trim, caulking, skim coating. You have to manually put in all the stuff that is not highlighted here. That's not highlighted in light green here. So removing wallpaper, let's just say you took it on, circle yes in the foyer. Repair nail pops with screws, yes, where in the foyer and all areas that we're going to be painting. Circle all the areas that we're painting walls. You're not painting ceilings, so we could just we could circle all that apply here. So we're not going to be painting the ceilings. We could just cross this whole section out basically, or just write like a little note over on the side here. And then when we move down to this section here, these are kind of like reminders of things that you guys might not have thought about. So how many coats in all these areas, if you've discussed how many coats, so you'll put 2 coats, write it in here manually. What finishes on what surfaces. So since there's not a lot of room, like I had mentioned before, in these 2 rows right here, I'll show you guys, yeah. So for color and finish, we'll just write those in here. So what finishes on what surfaces, trim and doors, semi-gloss white, walls, colors to be confirmed by email, something like that. If we're going to be replacing any electrical plates, as far as like when we take off the plates to paint, are we going to be putting new ones on, something like that? Do we want to charge for that? Or are we just going to throw that in as part of the job? Closets, if so, what closets are we going to be painting? So in this job, we actually, if we look up here, we have 5 closets that we're going to be painting, so we need to know where those are. And then which door sides. So I would recommend getting photos for door sides. It's really important. It's going to set clearer, communication between you and your crew, or even just to remind yourself if you're doing the painting. So which door sides, get photos of the door sides. And then other areas or rooms being painted that are not listed above. So maybe there's something altogether that isn't listed on this this service agreement or this pricing estimate, as far as something else that you've agreed upon. If you're doing a little bit of exterior painting and you don't need to use a full exterior form, whatever. Additional notes for you to list anything that wasn't covered in this form. But this form covers about 99% of what you're going to actually need to cover with an interior painting estimate. So after you have all that stuff, you're going to print out both of your pages. The way that you do that is you'll go up to File, Print, and then it looks like it's fitting pretty well on one page, at least for me. But if you guys are having an issue with it fitting on one page, you'll have to scale it a little bit. So you'll come down to this bottom option where it says No Scaling, and you'll click, and you'll just click Fit Sheet on one page. And then if it wasn't fitting, it'll fit now. And then you'll have to also go to where it says Print Active Sheets and Print Entire Workbook, because right now it'll just print the first page. And then you'll notice that you'll be able to scroll down in the print preview and see the second page. Oh, let's see. There we go. Computer's being a little bit slow, but let's see here. There we go. So there's the written service agreement. And I think that's everything that you guys will need to know. So you print those out, deliver them to your customer, and ask for the project. So I hope that this really helped you guys a lot, this tutorial. And if you guys do have any questions after you fully review the tutorial and you've gotten to this part of the video and there's still something that after you do a couple estimates you don't really understand, please reach out to us. You can just send me a quick email and I'll get back to you as quickly as humanly possible. All right, guys, thank you very much. Best of luck to you guys, and I hope that these systems help you have a lot of success and save you a lot of time.